Hello, friends, and happy December. It is already December, but we're going to talk about November because why not? We're going to talk about what we read and what we watched. And while we're doing this, Chris and I, we're talking about this beer that I'm drinking. It's called C- Cinnamon Bun Ale by Boulevard Brewing, and it tastes like a cinnamon bun. So it appeals to it's all the bad things that should not appeal to me, but I could not get it. I had to try. It tastes like a liquid cinnamon bun with alcohol. It's like,
So is this a way of getting around things for you, Steve? Because you're on a notorious not sugar vibe a lot of the time. So was this like a kind of, well, I mean, this could be a replacement.
I've been bad because I started writing a lot, and I started writing it I don't know, 100 a few hundred miles a month. I was doing
Mm-hmm.
500 or 400 miles a month. And I thought I can have a beer now and then, and a beer now and then became like a beer 2 or 3 times a week. And then it was like, if I'm having beer, I can have some nachos or I can have some carbs. And it's like if I'm riding if I'm climbing 2,000 feet, I can have a donut. And then it just gets out of control. It starts
Yeah.
off with once in a while, and then it's like, okay, now it's okay. Now I'm drinking cinnamon bun ale. It's like
I'm
we're off the
just, like,
rails.
there's no happy medium with that, Steve. You're either doing it or you're not doing it. That's just one of those things. I don't know. I tried to do the whole put my toe in the water a bit of eating the way I used to, and then as soon as that started, everything goes to shit. It's just no.
I was really good for a few years there about eating really good, and then it just one beer won't hurt, just once a week, just on Friday nights, and then it became, gets out of control.
Yeah.
So anyway, Chris, tell us about yourself.
Oh, jeez, me. Sometimes YouTuber, sometimes appear on other people's channels, just like so. And I will say this was a very much a late addition to come on here. I found myself at the loose end. I thought this is a nice way to round off my spoiler Saturday night for me when we're recording. I thought the pop on
Nice.
seemed like good old friend Steve. I haven't been chatting for a while.
I'm glad you can make it.
So.
I thought it was just going to be me, so I was kind of preparing no one's going to show up, so I'll just talk to myself. It's always good to have someone to talk to, so glad you can make it. So yeah, we'll talk about what we've been reading and watching, and then maybe some personal goals or things we've accomplished this month that we're proud of. So we'll get into all that stuff. So Chris, what did you read this month?
I mean, that's what we were just talking about beforehand. I've been on a very poor reading schedule for about just over 2 months, and I've pretty much only done what I'd committed to read with other people, and kind of was happy enough with that just to keep me ticking along. But I have to say, I've sort of got over the past. I was sick for about a week or so going on. Once I got better from that, my whole mood and everything's lifted, and it just seems to have reinvigorated me, just that whole thing. So I did start reading earlier on, unassisted. Even though the committed read, it is a committed read, but it isn't until the very end of the month. I started reading Alfred Bester's The Stars My Destination, part of the SF Masterworks. And I got through a prologue and the first couple of chapters of it, and I actually, after we finished here, I'll probably do another couple of chapters, which I have to say is, I'm very excited about just that, that feeling when you feel like you're over a slump of something, and
Yeah.
you feel like you're doing, it could be reading, it could be exercise, it could be absolutely anything, but that idea where you're just like, no, I feel like whatever it was that I didn't want to do is kind of, I mean, I'm kind of jonesed by that whole idea, so yeah, that's exciting. So the Stars My Destination is like a classic sci-fi old style book, insofar as for me anyway, you read the first couple of pages and you go, oh, shit, how could this guy have predicted 60 years in the future so well? That's what most of these are. It's like, holy shit. And the ideas at the start are very much, as soon as a new technology comes along, the whole world goes to shit. Insofar as, it's a good improvement for society and a good improvement going forward, but actually everything's went to shit now, so. And I was like, that's so accurate.
Yeah.
Because it's right, a good example for us is mobile phones, right? They're a phenomenally life-changing and experience-changing thing, but they have brought with them this whole thing of, oh, kids don't go outside anymore, and they don't know what life is, and all of this kind of doom and gloom that goes with it. And yeah, sure, some of that's true, but also like it just technology changes experiences.
Sure, yeah, definitely does. And Jared, glad you can make it.
Oh, what were you saying? I was just looking at my phone.
Me too.
Yeah, I can only stay for about 15 minutes, but
Oh, okay.
I figured I'd pop on for a minute.
No,
Oh,
I
you know
appreciate
what
it.
happens now, Jared? That people only stay until you're here, and then they're gonna go. They say, "Oh, God, that's all the good parts of that done."
Thanks, Jared.
Well, if you're still here around 8 or so, I'll come back. But
So tell us before you go. Tell us what you've been reading this month.
well, I had a good month. I finished off a lot of stuff this month, so it was pretty cool. It was, of course, it was stuff that fell over from month to month, but we finished off Fugitive Prince. That was awesome, and had to talk with Janie with that, and I finished off Toll the Hounds, the Malazan huge book, which I've been reading for 2 months. So that was one of my goals to get through that. So that was awesome, and we did do Android's Dream of Electric Sheep, which was great, which was very interesting. I got a lot of strange, I would say, trolls on my channel. A couple of strange trolls on
Really?
my channel from that particular book, my review and our discussion. And I was just like, oh boy. And
You've
I don't know
met
if they were
Jared?
trolls or just disgruntled people.
Aren't all trolls disgruntled?
Yeah,
people?
that is true. But are all disgruntled people trolls? I'm not sure.
Depends how much time they have in their hands.
Yeah, right. Nothing better to do with their lives.
It's
But
an interesting thing because, like, even in our discussion, not everybody loved it for sure, Jared. Like, I think me and you
Yeah.
were the most effusive, I think, about how much we liked it out of everybody. But it did seem to elicit a lot of very strong opinions.
It does, and I have a feeling that a lot of those old sci-fi books are like that. They have there's strong opinions about them, and they're definitely not for the modern reader. As far as everything is so focused on character nowadays, and character development, and you don't get that a lot in those old books. They're written for a different time and a different audience, and they're different. It was a style at the time that was prevalent, and especially in sci-fi. You know, you know.
I think that in some ways, some of the comments that you had were to that point, insofar as I think I seen maybe in somebody else's channel it was very much to that point of the fact that they weren't writing character-based stories and they weren't doing anything like that. Like if you can go back to Forever War, which we read, I mean, you have the main character the whole way through that we know nothing about pretty much by the end of it. You know, that's the William Mandela is just like a kind of shell of a human being for a lot of it, but yet the ideas that are in that book kind of can connect with you and all the other things. I love the stuff about it. Quite a lot, you know.
Yeah. So I'm very interested. I picked up a library copy of our next one, Near the Stars, My Destination. Oh, there you go. Look at that. Alfred Bester. Yeah. You already started?
Yes, started it earlier on,
Oh, okay.
Jared. That's actually what I was sort of talking about when you came in. So
Oh,
far.
okay.
Like I've
All
only
right.
3 chapters done at the start, so
Nice.
interesting.
Nice. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to getting to that, because this is all new territory for me, really, this sci-fi stuff. And, I've read Dune, of course. That's more fantasy, really, than sci-fi, in my opinion.
I'd say that, yeah.
And I read Donaldson's sci-fi series, but that's space opera, and he had some technical stuff in there, but it was a story first, and it was characters developing, so it was so this kind of sci-fi is new to me, and I like it because it's given me, it's expanding my mind, and I'm always up for that. Yeah, and I read I finished Sea of Poppies. Amitav Ghosh, and that was historical fiction, which was also kind of new to me. Um, I usually read history books, not history fiction. So that was interesting. The what's the word I'm looking for? The colloquialisms and the the language was so strange in that book that it threw me for a loop, and I got a kick out of that because I'm always one for getting that new kind of input like that, and it was a trip. It really was very well written. The guy can write, no doubt about that. But it took a while to really wrap my head around it and get into it. And once I did, I was like, okay, I can see why this book is so well liked in the areas it was, and it won awards and stuff, you know. And so I'll be doing a review on that at some point. It's going to take me a while to write one up for that one because that was pretty involved.
And part of a series, Jarrod, as well.
It is, yeah, it is. And I mean, I could stop here. It's kind of a standalone, but I can definitely see where it veers off into more territory as part of a series. Yeah, this book one. Yeah. So that was cool, and I finished off P.L. Stewart's The Last of the Atalanteans. That was a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
There's a scene towards the end that's pretty intense.
Yeah. Which one's that? That's
I'm afraid to say too much, but
yeah.
there's a battle scene on a certain surface.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, I know what you're talking about now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. That was that must have been fun for him to write.
Yeah.
So that's yeah. He's got some great ideas for that book, that series, and the point of view is just wacky, just because you don't really like the character that much, and he's not a he's a good person, but he's not a good person.
But he's an interesting character to read, and I think
Very
that's one of
interesting.
the things that you come to, like whether it's TVs, movies, books, or otherwise. You don't always need to root for a character. You just need to want to read the next page of the character story.
Right.
Like that's the idea.
He keeps the pages turning, no doubt about it.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was fun. That was all the stuff I finished off, and then I.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I've just finished watching your video, Jarrod, so I have actually a pretty good recollection of what you
Oh,
said.
okay. So you know what I'm talking about. I did that this morning, yeah, and then of course Night Fever with you guys. That was awesome, and then that was a lot of fun to talk about that. But I started my next Malazan book, The Orb Set the Throne by Esselmont, and I started Von Roycroft's Bold Ascension, which you should probably get him on here sometime. He's a really nice guy.
What's his name again? Sorry.
Von Roycroft. He wrote The
It's
Severing Sun, and his new one is Bold Ascension. A self-published author, and so he's and a really nice guy too. So I'm enjoying that. It's a lot of fun. That's another cool, interesting situation, characters in world he made up, and it's very historical based,
right.
even though it's on another world, so it's not our world. But it's very goth goths interacting with Romans basically, but he has different names for them, you know. Yeah, it's really cool. I like it, and yeah, so that's a quick wrap up of everything.
It's a lot.
It's a lot, yeah,
That was a lot.
but it's
I'd feature the Prince.
yeah. It's cool though, because I feel like I'm free to delve into more stuff because I wrapped up a lot of stuff that I was working on for a long time. Yeah.
It sounds like an over the hump month a little bit because Chris, you kind of said the same thing.
Yeah, that seems to be like a change. Maybe it's the change of the season or something like that. Kind of gives you that. Although, very much in Jared's case, it's very much of a culmination of about 3 or 4 months of working on similar books, a bit of,
Sure.
and
yeah.
then kind of finishing those all off at roughly the same time, which
Yeah,
can be
yeah.
really nice and satisfying. Yeah,
Kind of a convergence.
yeah. But Night Fever
Yeah.
was a really good read. I have to say, like because it's so short and so enjoyable and sort of meaty enough, like. I
Yeah.
think,
After
that had me
we
buzzing a
talked
bit for
about
it.
that, I was remembering, Steve, I was remembering what you said about is it all a dream?
Uh-oh.
And but it, I don't know. That was coming back to haunt me. Like, well, maybe it was kind of a, because the name of the book is Night Fever, and you have fevered dreams, right? So
Mm-hmm.
did he just dream it all up and make it a reality? Maybe he just saw the headlines and was like, "Oh, I'm gonna." I don't know. There was something to that.
Not to get too spoilery for those of you who haven't seen Total Recall, which is like a 30-year-old movie, but there's a scene in Total Recall when the doctor comes in and is trying to talk to him and say, "Do you really believe you're a secret agent
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
killing people and that you're accomplishing all these amazing things, but you're really just like a lonely, depressed, like jackhammer worker, a construction worker? Like, do you really believe that?" Like, I kind of like. So in this case, it'd be like, do you really believe you're in this weird underground society and you're battling secret agents? And I don't want to give too much away, but so yeah, I just kept thinking about that. Like, really, are you really capable of this? But who knows? That's what's fun
Well, it's
about it.
a
yeah.
bit like we talked about, insofar as that it's very much a male escapist fantasy kind of story. You know, it's very much, lie on your bed, what could happen if I did this instead of this thing, this normal thing? What if I did this risky thing? And actually following through with that, which I think is an interesting premise, especially with how it kind of resolves and kind of goes through and comes out the first.
Yeah, yeah, that was cool. Yeah, what's
Fantastic.
on? What's next on the docket for comics, graphic novels?
The fade out, right?
The fade out,
Oh
yeah.
yeah, I can't wait for that. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I
think
actually
I
ordered
ordered
the omnibus, full omnibus of that one.
Yeah.
It's only 3 volumes, so may as well have it in a bind up rather than 3 separates or otherwise. But yeah, it should be here in a day or two.
Nice. Yes, we have to start Swamp Thing soon.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah,
That'd be really cool.
and the Sandman.
Sandman's
another one.
always great. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just more and more. Like I don't know. Budget's the only thing really holding you back from a lot of that stuff. Like that's a much more expensive rabbit hole than books. Is graphic novels
It is.
Yeah, I think
and comics.
it's interesting because I think in something like Night Fever, it's so packed full of story and characters, and there's so much in it, but it's thin. So you see a 600-page book, and you're like, I don't mind paying $15 for this or whatever it is. And then you see, okay, I'm going to buy this graphic novel, and you're done with it in an hour. But it's as much story as a full-length novel. So it's, I don't know if it's a visual thing that we feel like there's more, you have more for your money than a novel that takes you 12 hours to read, or is it, I don't know what it is, but it's not lack of story. So is it just the visualization of seeing it on the shelf? Like, that's where it went.
I think you'd be surprised at how much our minds fill in with those pictures. The the art of telling a story with comic book in that medium is is partly a psychological art, because it really your mind does a lot of stuff with that, and a lot more than you think it does when you're reading it. It really does. It fills in a lot of stuff. They're not lying when they said a picture's worth 1,000 words. It's
Yeah.
it's really there.
I always get the feeling after going through, say, Night Fever, for instance, you get a really rich story. You know, sometimes you can kind of read a similar kind of thing just with words, and your mind is doing a lot of work there. And you know, some people will do that better than others. Whereas I think when you're doing a graphic novel, it's much more easy to talk about all of the aspects of the story that are working together, and we can come together and kind of sort of have a more similar experience, if that makes sense. Whereas if we're reading a book, say just words, we all might have interpreted that slightly differently, or might have seen it slightly differently, and you know, so there's maybe more discussion about kind of what way I perceived it rather than a graphic novel. Possibly.
Yeah,
That's a good point.
very, very cool. Yep.
So bummed you can only make it for a few minutes, but glad you can make it. Glad you can make it.
Yeah, I do. You know, I got a roast in the oven. Got to take it out. Got to do stuff. So all kinds of stuff going on. But
Sounds good though.
Yeah. It does sound good.
Yeah. Sounds excellent.
So Chris, what else did you read this month?
So what else did I read? Well, I read Fugitive Prince, since Jarrod never got talking about it, and I didn't even make our discussion on it. You can probably hear him still a bit bunged up. Or otherwise, I haven't got to the end of that discussion yet, but I think I have a slightly different take on the book than everybody else. Which is that I think it's just incredibly bleak. That is my number one thing about it, is it is very, very bleak. It is, in some ways, the most grimdarky of grimdark novels that I think I've read in the past year. In that there's very little hope at the moment. You know, I think as across the board, there's just a lot of terrible stuff that seems to be happening at the moment. And I think Jenny had said to us kind of when we finished reading the Gallant, be patient with it. And I thought she meant that this book was going to start off slow. And it obviously doesn't, right? Like, Fugitive Prince is kind of bang, bang, bang the whole way through. But I think she was talking about the fact that you got to be patient with the story because it is bleak at this stage. Like, the end of this book is...
See, we needed you there, Chris.
Yeah. Maybe. Well, that was my fault, my sickness and my sleep or otherwise. But I think it makes for an interesting jumping off point for the next book. Because I think we've got to get some sort of movement and resolution to some of this kind of... what this pressure, everybody's under pressure in the book. Like, there's nobody kind of running about going, God, I'm having a great Tuesday. Tuesdays are awesome for me. That's not what's happening. Everybody's feeling a weight of pressure and responsibility, and that book just continues to abound with complex storytelling, complex characters, complex interplay, and like, I think we often say about because we only do 3 chapters at a time, and sometimes when you're going through those 3 chapters and you're reading them, you're going, God, it'll be a short stream we'll do at the end of it. An hour and a half for 3 chapters is kind of about the norm, and it's like, oh my God, there's just so much happens and so much that this could mean so much an awful lot of the time. And it's maybe it's because of the way we're reading it, for sure, that makes it that way, but it creates so much more dramatic storytelling that I can think of many other series like that just don't achieve that in the same way, and that kind of master storyteller element sort of comes out to me all the time of, like, you just don't get this from other books.
Yeah.
Jarrod, I was telling Chris about our discussion Friday with AP and Janny.
Yeah.
And that they didn't, I wouldn't say I think they argued, but I liked how they went back and forth with different perspectives. Of course, they have a lot of admiration towards each other. They really respect each other, but it was good to see them kind of give their perspectives on writing and prose. And when you hear Jenny talk about writing or really anything, it inspires you. You feel like you can climb Mount Everest listening to Jenny. But hearing her talk about writing specifically kind of gives you an insight on what to expect if you haven't read the books yet. Kind of how rich and I hate saying dense because it sounds negative, but it's kind of her approach to writing and telling a story. I think it's really it's really unique, and you don't find it a whole lot.
No,
just because
right.
she's another level. I mean, she's on another level.
Yeah, no, it's rich, it's complex, it's full, like it has so much impact with every word, every sentence just means so much, and like you could spend a day just reading one page of that and just thinking about everything that went into it. I mean, we don't have that kind of time, but you can do that with her writing. It's like luxurious almost.
Hmm.
And that creates its own kind of issues for reading. I think it as well, because sometimes I just feel like I just want to get through the story, and then other times I'm like, no, I just want to swim in it. Like depending on my mood, that can feel like it. And I think this is the bit that I think is lost sometimes is you can do it both ways.
Hmm.
Like especially for us, because we're going to come together and converse about it or otherwise. But
Yeah.
sometimes I'll read a section and get what I need out of it, and then other times I'll be really pouring over it in a lot of depth and kind of. At the
Yeah.
end of the day, that might be different, but
Yeah, you can
it
do
works
that
both
with her
ways.
writing too. Yeah, because
Yeah.
it doesn't lack for action. There's stuff going on,
Jesus.
you know, and so if you don't, like I said, you can spend that much time on it, but you don't have to.
Yeah.
You can just read through and enjoy the ride for what it is. Yeah.
It's funny, Jared. Yesterday when we talked about kind of what readers can do, how readers can kind of appreciate the prose more, and you had mentioned how you read it, then you go back and you read it again, and you try to piece it together. Like, what have we read before? How does this tie into it? And I don't mean to be disrespectful, but some books, I don't want to say, some books just don't have that kind of depth to them. Some books are just
No,
beach
you're right.
reads, like we talked about. Like
Yeah.
so, but stuff like Janney or Erickson or Baker or those other books out there. I'm not thinking of right now, but those other books, but you can really dig into that and, like Chris said, really swim in it, and every word. It's almost like I kind of think of it like as a long poem, because every word has meaning and every word is heavy and it's there for a purpose. It's not just filler.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's the writing styles over the years they go in and out of favor and ebb and wane and what have you. And if like because they teach Shakespeare for a reason, because he has that level of involvement with the word, with his language and with his word choice and all that stuff. And of course, there's always a backlash to teaching Shakespeare. You know, we should be teaching more, modernist approach or something like that. And
Yeah.
and that that keeps going back and forth over the years, and so and there's nothing wrong with liking his simpler style of writing and enjoying it for what it is. And there are some writers who can, like Hemingway, who can write a very simple sentence that still means a lot. And so it all depends on what you get out of it as a reader, I guess.
Hmm.
But it's that idea of a toolkit. I mean, it's one of without totally changing topics. But if you think about music and modern pop music, I mean, I often
Yeah.
talk about this to my kids.
Music's similar. Yep.
Music's very similar insofar as, like, in modern pop music, almost nobody ever uses dynamics in terms of loud and soft. Hardly anybody uses change of tempo the way through it. Like, all of these, like, massive tool sets that people don't generally use to create modern music or any type of music, so to speak, they kind of limit themselves to, like, a subset of stuff and can be very successful in doing that and create something really great from the end of it. But there are other levels that you can step through and go to use and go to do in much the same way. And when things do all of those things, that's what sort of separates the art class. Sometimes when people say this is a song that is on a whole other level, what they're usually talking about is that they've used more of the tool set in a lot of ways.
Hmm. Yeah, the tool set. That's exactly right. In my case, if in my blog, it's the elements of form. That's the tool set, and so that is what writers are using. They're using that tool set, and they're and how they use that tool set towards their prose determines how it comes out. And so it's yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, music's a good comparison because that has the
also
same.
features yeah.
Yeah, it has the
features a lot
same
of
ebb
feature
and
prints.
flows as far as what's taught and what's you know, how things
Indeed,
changes
yeah.
and stuff. You know.
So yeah, Fugitive Prince was a lot of like action packed from start to finish. There's no doubt about that. Like some of the things that happened in that book, I think for all of us, dropped the jaw.
Yeah.
It was very, extremely shocking in ways that I probably wasn't prepared for. But my Grand Conspiracy copy arrived this morning, and I'm eager to start into that. Then
Yeah. I'm anxious. I can't wait.
You're always ahead, Jerry. You're like, oh, I already read him. Like, oh, 2 weeks early.
I haven't started Grantsbury yet, but it's sitting right there, and it's calling to me.
plus, it's got to the stage now. Like I'm just buying them as a finished one book to just kind of get on to the next. So we're now 5 books deep. They are starting to look really nice on the shelf together and stuff. You know, they are forming a nice body of space on my shelf, so to speak. In terms of this is a series of books that'll probably stay on my shelves for the rest of time because of kind of the impact that they're having on the reading.
Yeah. It's definitely a keeper.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
All right, guys. I hope something's not burning. I gotta go.
Okay.
Enjoy the roast.
Enjoy your dinner.
If you're still around in about an hour, then I'll be around.
Okay. Go ahead. Enjoy your dinner.
All right, thank you, guys.
So, because you mentioned reading the masterwork science fiction stuff, are you surprised with how close they are with predicting the future on some things, or at least
absolutely wild.
ideas?
It's wild, absolutely wild. Some of the stuff, some of it they don't get right. Like, don't get me wrong, they don't hit in everything one for one, but like sometimes it's small things like types of technology that came to the fore or how technology changed society. And then other things are about like bigger societal things, about how, you know, a small change would impact society and that would mean this. And yeah, that's exactly what happened, you know, in some ways. And nobody could have known that. And it might be, you know, they often use the Star Trek scenario of, well, if he hadn't shown it and thought of it, maybe technology wouldn't have evolved in that way, if that makes sense. But I don't think anybody's talking about a lot of these books and having the same sort of cultural impact to the wider society that something like Star Trek did, for instance, with computer communicators and all that kind of stuff, the way that kind of took form. But for me, that's where I really love. Like, I rarely make notes of books, but I make notes of these books about the small stuff like that. You know, and actually what that mean. Like, I'll give you an example. In Forever War, they talk about the fact that they've abandoned children. Right, nobody can have children anymore, and they grow children from tanks, right? And they explore that kind of idea in that, and then you think, well, if you can't have children, and all children are born like from a vat somewhere, families don't exist,
Right.
right? So the family unit has disappeared. What does that mean for society? Like, that's absolutely enormous. Like, that's one of the big things that keeps the machine going. If that makes sense, is the fact that a parent will work harder. The parent will do whatever it needs to feed and support their child. If that doesn't happen anymore, like, holy shit. And sometimes I just have to put down the book and go, I can't cope. I know this is only a story, but that is such a big idea that
Yeah.
I don't even think I can process it right now, you know?
Do you see a difference in modern science fiction, not only just ideas and themes around the stories that you did back then? Have you noticed a difference?
I don't know if I read enough modern science fiction, but modern science fiction that I've read isn't like this philosophical stuff, which, look, I have to say, like, I've seen people say they don't like classic sci-fi. I know why they don't like it, because there isn't that use of character, there isn't that necessity for a good, entertaining story in its own right. Like, I'm loving them. They're 200 pages long. They're absolutely amazing to read. 200 pages of ideas, and then the book's finished and you're shut and put it down. But if those 200 pages were kind of dense, heavy, all of those words that we're talking about beforehand, and you didn't get any story out of it, for some people that's not what they come to reading for. If I was trying to put it to something like, we've obviously finished The Expanse. The Expanse is all characters and story. You know, it has some ideas in it, but it is prevailingly an entertaining story that it wants to tell, and the philosophical stuff, and thematic stuff floats along there in the background, but it isn't the point of the books. And I think in a modern publishing world, I think you can't write those old types of stories very much anymore because they're not going to sell. The literary agent's going to read it and go, "Oh dear, if only there was something happened," you know. Not very nice. But then maybe I'm not experienced enough in modern science fiction to talk about that. And that was kind of one of the points of kind of starting this kind of read along, is to say, like, if we explore a lot of these classics and then use that as a springboard to more modern stuff, can we spot the difference, or can we see the through line from one to the other, how this led to this? Because you can even do the same with fantasy if you think about it. Like, fantasy was the same story told many times over, from Lord of the Rings, repetitiously kind of moved forward, and then it was only many years later, kind of recent history, that it's become this explosion of sort of this multitude of subgenres and sub-stories and all the things that we get now.
Why do you think those stories won't sell anymore? The more entrenched in ideas and philosophical kind of themes.
I mean, they don't sell in movies. They don't sell on TV either, because there is this idea that time, I think, in modern society is precious, and people want to be entertained. They don't actually necessarily want to think. I think I've talked this before. There's a filmmaker called Danny Cote, did an interview, and he says there are two types of experiences for entertainment that you can have. You can be a passive viewer or an active viewer. And a passive viewer wants to just turn up, open a book, watch a screen, and things happen at them, and they don't have to think about it. And the active participant is somebody that wants to get into heads of the characters. They want to kind of go into the subtext and all that kind of stuff. That's what we're talking about. He says one completely outweighs the other one in terms of modern society, in terms of what they come to entertainment for. And, well, he was saying unapologetically, without judging anything, he is targeting the active person in his filmmaking, in so much as he's doing low budget stuff, all of that kind of stuff, but he's looking for people to put themselves in the heads of the characters that are on screen and think about what's happened to them, so that they build a story in their heads rather than me kind of show all of it on screen, because I haven't got the budget for that. No, I haven't got, that is not the type of story that I want to tell, but he wants to tell stories about people and situations people identify with. And I think a lot of that's true for a lot of TV and movies, etc. And like, the world is governed by committee. Producers want to return on their investment. They don't want to take risks. They just kind of want to say, right, what sells? This sells. Give me some of that. And away you go.
I wonder how much of that has to do with the 24-hour news cycle and social media, because we're so inundated constantly with news and current events, and this happened, whether it's around the world or in your own city or down the block or whatever. I think there's something to be said about escapism, and I think some people just want a break.
Yeah.
They want to go watch superheroes fight a giant monster, even though they know the movie will be disposable. They'll probably forget about it the minute they walk out of the theater, but at least they'll be distracted for a while. I think you need a break sometimes. You need to just think about something else for 2 hours and eat some popcorn and have a good time.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like, I often joke, my mum wants to read the same book every single time. And she picks authors that write the same book every single time. The same twee kind of small country village, the same characters that fall in love, the same conflicts that happen in all those books. I mean, romance being the prevailing genre of high-selling that is essentially the same book every single time, story beats or otherwise. Some would say that some films definitely fall into that 3-act structure of you know, people want that familiarity. They want to just be able to sit down and go, oh, right about now something will happen. You know, we've been sitting here for about 45 minutes. Something will happen now that'll propel the rest of the story. And that familiarity is comforting in a lot of ways. It means that people don't know what they're getting. They always feel like they got value for money. They'll come back next week. They might come back and do the same thing. But it's also why when things do that and subvert some of that stuff at the end, that's where you get the real things that blow up in popular culture. Like, you can think of any amount of examples about that, but people's ideas of Game of Thrones as being a fantasy show. Like, I work with somebody that was like, I don't like fantasy shows, and just doesn't like it. Just doesn't read it at all. Doesn't do anything like it, which is fine. But actually then starts to watch it and go, oh, but it's not really a fantasy show. I mean, there are there's stuff in it that's what I would consider to be fantasy, but it's not really that. It's kind of about politics and skullduggery and, you know, screwing people over and all of that kind of stuff. I like that stuff, which I think it's an interesting conversation to have with somebody who says, like, I don't like magic and dragons and stuff, but like lots of death, murder, and double crossing of people. That's awesome, you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think in that setting, because it's basically what's, you know, like politics, and there's a lot of things that go on. I think having that fantasy setting gives us a buffer to say this isn't real, and doesn't hit so close to home, I guess.
It also means that when things play out in real life repeatedly, one of the things that social media does is give an echo chamber to this idea of this person is just doing this thing just like this person did that thing 5 years ago or 10 years ago. How people are manipulating news cycles and all of that kind of stuff that nobody would have seen 10, 15 years ago has now become very apparent to everybody. Everybody's quick to point it out and going, this is the playbook. And that's where an awful lot of discontent, I think, gets sown. People nearly know too much. Or people know, you know, can read what's happening in society a bit more, or for that sake, entertainment or otherwise. It's why, you know, we've talked about this many times. It's very hard to do endings. When people have seen a lot of good endings, how do you create a good ending? Like, it's almost impossible.
Is it almost better to not end something? I wonder. Think about the major franchises that we still talk about today. Firefly.
Yep.
Game of Thrones. Will we ever see an ending? And there's all this talk around what's going to happen, how is it going to end. Firefly, there's all this talk about what would have happened next, and there's still that wonder and mystery around it. But so stuff like Lost or The Sopranos, or whether you liked it or not, is it better to leave it open? I mean, is it better to leave it to, like, I wonder what happened to Tony Soprano, I wonder how that worked out, than to know, well, Sopranos was another thing, but with Lost, if there is no final season, how many fan theories would there be about what happened and what was this, the button and the numbers and the island and all this other stuff. So
for all of those series that you kind of talked about, maybe Sopranos is a slightly different one, but you go to Lost or Game of Thrones or something, even Firefly, because if you take away the movies, right? If none of them, if they all had been cancelled or the creators quit before the final series, I think Game of Thrones and Lost would have went down as unarguably the greatest TV shows of all time. You know, and people would have said, God, if only they had been able to get it done, this would could have done. And people would projected, a bit like you're saying, all of the theories. As soon as you try and finish it off, you create problems, because then people are left unsatisfied. That's not the theory that I want. Or if somebody's in a room and they're trying to predict what happens at the end, and your friend says what would have been a 10 times better ending to the series than actually happened, then you go, that would have been awesome. This wasn't.
yeah,
This is poorly educated, and it's with an awful lot of things. A lot of those decisions come down to money, budget, time, all of those things, which is really where the creative process stalls. Insofar as you do things for reasons other than in the aid of good storytelling.
Yeah, interesting. Very interesting.
What'd you read, Steve?
Oh, well, was there anything else? You read Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, right?
Do Androids? It was my second. I actually read that twice this year. I read
okay.
it at the very start of the year. I read it in February, I think it was February or March. And obviously again for the thing, it is, haven't done the video yet, it's my favourite read of the year by 1,000,000%. It's one of the most amazing books I have ever read in my entire life. And does much happen? Not very much at all. It is not like the movie at all. I love the movie. I mean, the movie's basically a similar story told in that world in some ways. Like, the choices that they made for the movie were great choices in order to make a better movie. But the book's philosophical, full of ideas, kind of this idea of what is society, what is sentience, what is life, all of this kind of stuff. Stuff that sounds very big, but I think it gets explored really well in the book. Like, I just, it was one of those things. I could only read 2 chapters at a time the first time I read it, because I was just like, those 2 chapters, close the book, my head's spinning. I cannot process everything that man's saying. Like, and I've only read a couple of Philip K. Dick books, but they all do the same thing, which is present these big ideas. You can think of Man in High Castle. You ever seen the TV series or anything, or know the premise of Man in High Castle?
So the first 2 seasons, I think.
Oh, so you're well in. So that goes past the book in a lot of ways. But that idea, alternative history, what would happen if, the Nazis won the war, kind of thing, and then goes along that. So the TV series is very much about the practical applications of that, and about living under oppression. Whereas the book is about what that would mean in terms of differences in culture. So it really explores about what it would mean if American society was an American society but was a blend of German and Japanese society, but still within a capitalist kind of framework. And sometimes you just go, holy smokes, that's just too much. That's just too much to think about and to kind of revolve. And again, a lot of people don't like Man in High Castle. It has the last 2 chapters which go completely off piste as well. But again, with the aim of promoting conversation and thought in somebody's head of going, yeah, so what would that mean? What would that mean for Sally? And a bit like you're saying, and as far as ending goes, it doesn't really give an ending. It just gives a possibility. So if this thing happens, what does that mean? And just something about that open-endedness that kind of really clicks with me as a more mature reader. If I was a younger reader, I would have hated it. I liked more closed loop stories, whereas I think as I get older, I'm much more akin to, I can surmise what I would like or think what happens after that and be happy with that, because all endings suck.
They do, yeah. I would love to discuss The Sopranos one day. That'd be fun.
Well, we'll have a conversation, Steve. I have an idea about that.
Yeah, and not to spoil The Sopranos, but I think this is ripe for discussion, that one. Yeah.
There's certain stories, I think stories in general, and the way stories are told, I've become a very big cynic, and again, from reading, watching, seeing too many stories, of thinking, why would a writer do that? So it's the way that I solve most murder mysteries on TV. Which character doesn't need to exist? And why is that character in the story? What does every character do in the story? And 9 times out of 10, you can find the murderer because of that. Because everything is a narrative choice. And especially in TV series where a character is money.
Mm-hmm.
In a book, it's easier just to write one and say, oh, there's a couple of red herrings or whatever. But in TV terms, like a CSI episode, especially procedurals where they're working with budgets, kind of 24 episodes a series, they will not pay for an extra actor that they do not need. And you smell out the... if you don't find the murder because of it, you'll find the motivation because of it. You think, okay, that's what that is. Which I think is really quite interesting as a premise. But I think that spoils an awful lot of stories then for you going forward, because you're looking for narrative choices rather than kind of letting the story flow over you and taking on the ride and doing all that kind of stuff. Again, that idea that as consumers of stories, we get to know too much.
Yeah. Yeah, I think sometimes we want to know too much and maybe just let it stand on its own,
God, but I think that's another one of those reasons why not to be a writer. Imagine people questioning why you did something, and your only answer you could come up with was, I just felt like it was the right thing to do. People will be so unsatisfied by that. I just felt like futzing around with it, which is often the answer to people. I just felt nobody had died in 3 chapters. I thought now was the time for somebody to die, and I picked you, and you died.
Yeah. I do wonder. I mean, speaking of, I think we want to know too much. I think sometimes even I do this. I look for things that aren't there. Like I'll look for ideas, and it's maybe just a story. Like it doesn't have to be that serious. But I don't know. I think it's kind of fun just to dive in and to kind of, not every story can be that thought provoking. I think sometimes it takes a special story to even make you go to that place.
Chink in the armor, for sure. I mean, I loved good friend of both of ours, John Palladino, when he was talking about why did you kill such a character. He says because I was sick of writing him. He bored me to tears. had to go because I was so bored of writing him. I love that also.
He kills a lot of characters.
So, dude. But yeah. So what do you read then, Steve?
So this month I did finish Revival by Stephen King. And I have problems with Stephen King.
Oh, I know. I'm surprised you dove back in, but yeah.
I've had it on my shelf for a while, and I kept hearing that it's if you don't like Stephen King, even if you don't like Stephen King, you'll like Revival.
Right.
And it's like a different kind of story. And I thought, okay, I have the hardcover. It's I'll give it a shot. This is my thing with Stephen King. Okay, so the story, the nuts and bolts of it, I really enjoyed. He has a way of making you feel a passage of time and kind of making you feel like you're growing with the character, like throughout their lives. You see different points in their life, and even though there's some points in their life when you wonder, okay, why do I need to know this small detail? It kind of sort of pays off later. Like you kind of, okay, I get why you explained why they learned how to tie their shoes when they were 5. Like, okay, like I get why we spent 15 pages on how they learned how to tie their shoes. Okay. But so the nuts and bolts of it are good. But I just felt like it should be a novella because there's so much extra stuff in it that just didn't do anything for the story. There's like a third of it. You could have cut it out and thrown it away, and I would have never noticed. I wouldn't have known. It had no. So I think it's a difference, and some people like to bathe. They like to let it wash over them, and they like all those little details, and like to hear about all the small things that the character does or went through, or even if it doesn't matter later. I think they enjoy that kind of stuff, and that's cool. Like, no, I'm not throwing any shade at anyone. If you like that, I mean, obviously he's doing something right, right? Stephen King.
He's doing all right for himself, yeah.
But there's just, at the end of it, I thought you could have just like cut out like 100 pages I would have never known, But there were some really good moments in it. There's some really touching moments. The end, I liked the end, but it's like it comes out of nowhere. Like, what? Like, where did this come from? I don't want to say too much for those of you who haven't read it yet. Don't want to spoil it. But overall, I'd say that I liked it. I just think that there's a lot of extra stuff in it. It's like overstuffed.
Interesting.
It would have been a novella. Should have been a novella. Well, in Stephen King's case, it should have been a short story. Because his short stories are novellas.
He writes a lot of he experiments with the form quite so often. Have you read many of his short stories? Was going to be my question.
I've read If It Bleeds, and then I have 4 Past Midnight. I need to read those.
Okay. So you have
they're
some
just so
of them
long.
as well. Yeah, like his short story collections. Like I'm sort of making my way through Nightmares and Dreamscapes at the moment. Pretty much encapsulate why I like the longer form King so much, because you do get the story beats, you do get the things that happen, you do get the kind of weird and twisted part that King does write about, but without any of the flavour. There's no salt in it. There's no pepper. There's no stirring of it. It's that kind of thing. And I think you actually put it very well there, Steve. I think those kind of bits where I just live inside somebody's head, because he does internal monologue so well in my view, are the bits that I really like about a story. It's the bits that make his books really enjoyable for me. I mean, his endings, he just doesn't, not great endings. I talked a bit about endings, but I think Stephen King's way of writing a good ending sometimes is to do exactly what you say, which is just kind of, let's go left turn, let's do something that nobody could have seen. I think he does that quite a bit. But I do like the flavour and the story mixing of, and the kind of the things that don't mean anything, but the kind the things that give me a sense of who that person is in much more like idiosyncratic ways. I would say it a bit like there's a genre of movies called slow cinema, right? And slow cinema is that similar idea, is the fact that it shows you people doing mundane things over and over and over again, to the point that if that person does something slightly differently, it jumps out at you and they're like, boom, hits you up the face. But you have to watch a lot of nothing happening on the screen before that, and that can be very boring for especially for some people, depending on how it goes. If that's what you're going to do, so like the whole premise of a film like Jean Dielman, which was voted the greatest film of all time by Sight and Sound in their big poll this year, is nearly 4 hours long and is based on that entire premise of the fact that I'm going to show you this person's day to day, day after day, their interactions with people, what happens, to the point that you will notice small differences. And some people love that. Some think that's genius, and some people go, I'm not getting that 4 hours of my life back. That's wild that somebody would do that. And that, that's why there's so many books in the bookstore.
Yeah.
Because there's a book for everybody, or there's a story for everybody. And while I might think King is an absolute genius, other people can enjoy him to a certain point and kind of feel like he doesn't do it for them. Those all theories and all opinions are completely right and relevant,
Yeah. What's funny is that I don't mind slow cinema. I kind of enjoy slow movies. But when I'm taking 15 hours to read a book and you spend 4 of those hours talking about things that don't matter, it's like, I think he's just so good at his craft. He's just so good that he just like shows off sometimes. Like, I just think he's so good at what he does that he just can't help himself.
Yeah.
Just wants to show off.
Possible. The other thing I'd say about, if you look at his movies are the nuts and bolts of it, but hardly any of his movies capture the essence of what's good about his stories. Like, they just can't do it. He doesn't translate well from page to screen at all.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, they're all a car crash. I'd say a good King movie.
Stand By Me, maybe?
I mean, Stand By Me and The Shining would get brought up, but I mean, The Shining, he completely changed the ending of it, and he changed the premise of it quite a lot. So, those things, both those stories were adapted for screen rather than kind of being a translation of the book in the screen, I would say. There are other ones that are sort of all right and okay, but I don't think any of them capture the amazingness of his writing for me as a fan. Maybe for other people that aren't so much a fan, maybe the books and the film adaptations are fine, but none of them are. I'd much rather read the book, and I even like the ending of The Shining better than the book than the film. And I know that's not a popular opinion, but that might be one of the ones where I think you got it right. Let's see.
I haven't read the book or seen the movie, so need to do that. It's on the list.
I think the right way is to watch the movie first. I do think you would appreciate the book more from watching the movie and actually see the difference of how things go there.
Interesting.
Welcome
back, Jarrod.
That was delicious. Absolutely delicious.
Did you have gravy?
No, I actually had a filet mignon roast.
Wow.
It was so good, and I got it for so cheap. Oh, it was so good.
Wow. I wish everyone could see the look on your face right now because you look so satisfied.
I got my glass of wine here, and it's delightful. Oh, delightful.
Awesome.
Well, what you've missed Steve savaging his namesake, Mr. King.
That's too bad. I would have liked to hear that.
I'm notorious for that.
We know Steve when he goes in a rant. He just goes, That's very cool.
Was it because of a recent book or something?
Revival, but we'd kind of
okay, all right.
Talked about King in general. But wait until we get to reviews. I think we might be talking reviews this Friday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I will be ranty on that one if we do talk. If that does happen, because I have some thoughts. Thoughts. But anyway, I also read The Darkness That Comes Before. It's my third time reading it.
Wow.
Yeah. You read with Varsha, with Dan, with Mike, with Carl D. Albert, the author Carl D. Albert. And it's really great discussions. And I'm finding things in my third read that I did not notice in my first two.
Nice. That's cool.
I'm really not a rereader, but I'm noticing all these things that I did not notice. I think the first time I read it, I got the story, kind of. The second time I picked up more of it, and now the third time I'm picking up little things that
Yeah.
now that I've read the entire series and going back and reading the first book,
Yeah.
there's little sentences, little words here and there that set up things in the last book, or at least reference them. So it's pretty neat. Pretty neat seeing how early those seeds were planted in the first book.
Nice. I'll have to get to that series someday. Yeah.
Here's a question. So you've done this you did the first read totally by yourself, isn't that right, Steve?
Yeah, the first book I did by myself, and then I stopped, and then I read the entire series with Daniel and Katerina.
Katerina. So you've read then the other ones with different reading groups, so to speak. Although Daniel's in both, isn't he? Or is Daniel? No, it's Dan in the third one, is it?
Yeah, Dan. There's a different Dan, but yeah, Daniel
Dan.
does interact with us on the forum, but he's afraid to take up space on the streams for some reason.
Okay.
But he's brilliant too. Yeah.
So, changing the reading group, does it change even before the discussions? Like, I often think about this as well, because say if I know I'm doing one of the Masterworks reads with Jarrod and Barsha and Susanna, etc., I sort of know them well enough to know what they're looking for in reading terms. So when I'm reading it, I'm kind of thinking with their brain, if you know what I mean. It's kind of think what they are probably going to say. And if you have a different reading group, have you found that for doing the reread of Darkness Comes Before, for instance? Because you were going from like seeing things that Katerina and Daniel picked, and I have other people.
Very different, I think, because I don't think it's not a spoiler to say that in the first book and the first serial, really the whole series, there's some parallels to the Crusades, and Carl is very knowledgeable with the Crusades, so he knows a lot of history. So his insights, things I didn't know, like he'll tell us about history and these battles or these things happened or this political thing was going on. And Varsha is Varsha's another level too. She knows a lot of fantasy. She's just very intelligent. She picks up on things that I never thought about. Mike picks up on things that I never thought about too. So everybody has like their own, and they all bring something they all bring new things that I never thought of. Like would never think that, but it's like, that's really cool that you thought of that. So it's really interesting how you can have so many different perspectives on a book or entertainment. But it's been really, I'm trying my best to have my poker face to not spoil things for them. But I can't wait to get into later books to see what their reactions are. But because it is a very, very memorable, we talked about endings and wrapping up stories. It's very, very memorable. And yeah, so.
Nice.
Steve, you've got a good poker face for that kind of stuff, though. I haven't done True Detective with you. That was, I actually found myself, I watched one of the recordings we did because somebody brought it up in the house, and I kind of went, "Oh, what's that?" And I was like, "Steve gives nothing away." Like, I remember trying to read like micro expressions and stuff when I was saying stuff. I would try and say things and time things so that I could spot things, and it didn't work. No good.
I try. Yeah.
What a pro.
I'm getting there. Yeah.
That
try to just look done, like, you know.
Yeah. That is what I love about the conversations. Is I love it when people pick up stuff that I didn't see. I absolutely love that because it's just like, oh wow, okay, that's a whole other thing. Sometimes I sit back and just listen to people talking about what they found, and it's just it's good. These conversations have been great with the Wars of Light and Shadow series because you really get so much out of it. It's almost like doing a reread right there, you know?
That's a very good way to put it, yeah.
Yeah, I think you can have a discussion for any book, and it would be rewarding. But I think there's just some that are there's so many different things that they bring to the table that it's very you can go on for hours about them. There's certain books that you can, certain things you can't, but yeah, it's good stuff.
And I've talked about this before, but like, I thought when I started doing those kind of discussions, if somebody had a different opinion on me, it would annoy me so much. Like, I'd be like, "Oh, like, you're wrong. this is like the worst thing ever. But it's actually my favorite thing because hearing somebody not only say that they had a different opinion from it, but explain why, it can just kind of make you totally reevaluate your whole sense of that story. I think we did it a couple of times when we were doing The Expanse. And I would come in and say, this is the worst book in the series so far. And by the end of it, by the time everybody discussed it, I'd be like, this might be my favourite book because of the kind of conversation that it engendered, brought from it. And you're like, oh, wow, how does this happen?
Yeah. I think that's why book clubs, especially after the pandemic, I think we in some ways, I think not only readers, just people in general, just crave that kind of interaction, that kind of back and forth, and so it's nice to have found people that are into that too. So,
cheers to that.
Yeah, definitely.
Clink.
And I'm going to restart Fugitive Prince because I feel like I think now that I have some time to catch up, I'm going to restart it and be ready for the next one. So, I'm going to
Nice.
restart that one. I've been reading Berserk with JC and Byrne and Varsha and Dan. And it has, just when I think it can't get any bleaker, it gets bleaker, but it like sprinkles it in.
Right.
And it doesn't seem like doesn't always seem like it's shock value, but sometimes I do wonder sometimes, like, is this really necessary? Like, do we really need to go this far with it? Like, do we really need to be that shocking? I almost wonder, like, we set the bar a certain level to be shocking or to be, and it's like, okay, now I need to go farther, and now I need to push it even farther, and it's like, you really don't. You really don't. But overall, I think it's pretty
Question
good.
about Berserk, because I've read other mangas, etc. And at a certain point, it feels like there's a formula to it. Like they are, especially long-running manga series, they are doing this kind of thing. And although it's a new arc, new story, or whatever, it has the same kind of feel to it. Has Berserk got that stage? Because you're in 20-something, aren't you? Or in 20-something?
28?
28, I think it's about right, yeah.
It's actually my second manga, so I don't know too much, but there's some things that happen that I wouldn't expect to happen. So there are some surprises.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
The only manga I've read has been Lone Wolf and Cub. From that was first done back in the 70s. But I read the Dark Horse adaptations when they came out, and that's have you guys ever read those at all? No.
I've watched the films. I've watched all 6 films.
Oh, you watched the film? Well, those the they call them the baby cart films.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Shogun Assassin and stuff like that.
Shogun Assassin's the
Which is-
American interpretation of the first and second one.
Yeah, right. Which of course was featured in Kill Bill. The kid
Oh.
was asking the mother if they could watch Shogun Assassin at the end of the second Kill Bill. That was hilarious. But so that's what I was familiar with for manga. I never really could get into the other stuff that's more modern. And it's like a 28 volume like epic piece of work, but it's really cool. It's the artwork's outstanding, and it's very a piece of its times. It's very misogynistic and at points. So that you have to get through that part of it, but the artwork is so stunning, and the rest of the story is really great. So it's just gotta be prepared for that. But
Nice. Lone Wolf and Cub?
Lone Wolf and Cub, yeah, and it's also what the movie, which was a comic first actually, Road to Perdition was based on.
Oh, right, okay.
It has that same father-son dynamic.
Yeah.
It's the like Lone Wolf and Cub was like one of the penultimate father-son dynamic basic stories. It was from back then. There's been a lot of imitation of that since then.
It was one of the most depressing movies I've seen until I saw The Road, and then I was like,
yeah,
okay,
Cormac
it's
McCarthy,
worse.
Oh, Road to Perdition.
No, yeah, Road to Perdition. Then The Road was, whoa, yeah.
Bleak.
Some-
Is that based on the Cormac McCarthy book? Is that what
Yeah.
that is? Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I really want to read that book.
One of these
It's on the
days to
list.
go through Cormac McCarthy. I have Blood Meridian on the shelf because I thought, that seems to be the one to read if you're going to go Cormac McCarthy. May as well start there.
And that was a movie too, right?
I think so. Is it a movie?
Could have been, yeah.
Was that? Oh, no, I'm thinking of No Country for Old Men. That's what I'm thinking
Oh,
about.
that was definitely was a movie.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
called,
Yeah,
for
with the
sure.
Yeah, I think it's just a book.
Okay.
I would love to read it though. So Chris, let me know when you.
Yeah,
Such
I
a
know
good-
Dan from Black and Blue Collar Reader. I remember him posting on the forum saying, "I've just finished this book. Please, for the love of God, I need to talk to somebody."
Yeah. I will add it to my cart right now. Oh shit! Hold on. Paperback. So, and then the other thing I started this month, which we're talking about, or in November, we're talking about here in December, is Truth of Crowns
Oh, I
by
haven't
Carl D.
started
Albert.
yet. Yeah.
I'm only about 70 pages in. I think I have a bad habit of starting a fantasy book and wondering, okay, how is this similar to something else?
Yeah.
Or not similar? I think I have a bad habit of looking for, okay, what is this going to do differently than everything else I've read? So I'm trying to not do that. But so far, I'm enjoying it.
It's that formula thing we were talking about. Everything's inspired by something else, and you kind of try to see behind the pages, trying to see the author rather than see the story. And that's not to say that, but seeing the kind of inspiration behind something, and it's a bit like you were saying about Jarrod with the Goths and the Romans. You know what I mean? That while it doesn't say that on the page, that's what you're reading. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that was it for me. I think December will be a lot busier for me. But I did read almost all of. Well, I listened to "Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep," and it strikes me as how these like AI and all these different things were discussed so long ago. Like, who could see that happening? So all these really grand ideas that are reality for us now in some ways.
Yeah. No, they were talking about AI back in the 50s even. It's been that idea has been around a long time.
Question for both of you.
Mm.
Does AI exist because of those stories?
Well, that's
I think a
pretty
bigger
deep.
question is, does AI actually exist at the moment? Because I still
That's
don't
another question.
think
Yeah, right.
that's
Like
we are
true artificial intelligence,
there.
or
Yeah,
is
the
it?
sentience bit isn't there.
Yeah,
as far
sentience
as I
is
can
definitely
see
not
it.
there,
It's,
yeah.
it's not there. I think it's getting closer, but I still feel like we're 30, 40 years away, and I sort of do think by the time we get to that stage, and this is kind of the point of the book, I think you have to accept it as life. Like, I just don't see the distinction between that and not life. If you've got something that's actually AI, or the definition of AI, at what point do you get the judge that it's not life? It's like I said, Do You Understand Middle Actor Sheep just kind of blew my
Well,
mind in a lot of ways.
Is
Because
it?
of
Is there gonna be AI, or is there gonna be some combination of human and computer? Is there gonna be some sort of interface combination that's gonna, you know, replace both, maybe, or that what we consider AI now, and what we consider humans. How when is it gonna? When are we gonna integrate that? I think that's the question.
cybernetics, basically.
Yeah, because it's because we're so glued to this right here, that this stuff, the phones,
It
and
does so much. Yeah.
And we're so glued to it. What's the next step besides being addicted to the screen? And is it a chip that we can see all this stuff without having to hold anything in our hands, or is it, and then how does that affect, the future generation going forward? Yeah, I'm not sure about the sentience of AI separately from humans, but how much integration is there going to be with humans? And I think that might be a bigger concern, actually.
Yeah.
Because there are AI girlfriends now that are making a ton of money,
Yeah.
but it's not a physical thing yet. But I think back to the movie Her. I don't know if
Yeah.
you've both seen Her,
Yeah,
Brilliant
yeah,
movie. Brilliant.
but we're close to that, aren't we? I mean, isn't that we're getting closer to that?
Getting
We're
closer.
a few years away. Like at least to that level of that level of AI to where it can become it doesn't feel artificial. It feels like a person talking to you.
So I think one of the points of Her the movie is, and it actually takes it right through this final conclusion about all that kind of stuff, is if it's making those people happy, is it wrong? If it's feeling that needed in their life, is it okay for other people who are in like different types of relationships to judge and say that's wrong? And I think that's one of the key tacits of that whole film in some ways, even in how it plays out its resolution, insofar as that if you accept that it's okay, then you should accept the ending of that movie as well as being a possible outcome.
So I think where the problem comes in, I would never say someone should never do something like that because if that's that's their decision. But I do think there's an issue when you have an AI girlfriend that says yes to everything,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't. There's never any disagreements, or they always agree with you. They're willing to do whatever you want them to do. They tell you about how great you are all the time. Do you start to forget how to deal with conflict because you're always going to have conflict? So do you almost need that opposing voice to say, no, you're being an idiot, like don't do that? Or do you want someone to say, yeah, that's a great idea, like you should go do that right now? I think that's when it gets into, it can be potentially bad for people's mental health in the long term when they don't have a back and forth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. But the thing is, if it doesn't have that degree of interaction where it can say, "Hey, you might not be doing the right thing," then is it truly AI? You know,
True.
because if it's
But I
just
think,
agreeing with you all the time, then it can just be a program.
but if someone's opting for an AI partner, do they want someone to disagree with them, or do they want someone to agree with them all the time? Because if you have someone who will, I want an AI partner, and the AI says, no, you shouldn't do that. Say, you know what? I'm not going to pay my monthly fee for someone who's going to disagree with me. I'm going to go somewhere else
I think it's
for someone who's going to agree with
such
me.
a really good point, because again, it's a bit like saying about this philosophical sci-fi, this stuff that's in here. If you plant that idea, it means that anybody can get a partner that just fills a need or niche of them, whether it's between them otherwise. If that's the case, does the whole morality sense of society break down then? If you put yourself in like a real relationship where there is a sense that you will be judged or you have to conform a certain way, that sort of keeps society on that kind of that level. Whereas if you take that away, does society just then become a free for all?
Yeah. Harari's follow-up to *Sapiens*, Homo Deus, however you say that, gets into that a lot because he's talking about the future of humanity rather than the history of it, and he gets into the that a lot. He brings into those ideas that you guys have been talking about right now. He talks about that a lot, and he talks about interface and possibly being the next step in evolution for for mankind, and he really delves into a lot of that stuff. It's a fascinating book if you ever get a chance to read it.
Big ideas for sure.
Yeah, big ideas. Yep.
Fascinatingly big ideas.
I don't remember a thing, but I know there were big ideas.
I was just looking forward to you sharing like our lecture for us on the kind of outcomes of those books or otherwise. But yeah, that whole sphere of conversation about the good, the bad, and the dangers and the benefits. I
Yeah.
think if I had a fear, it's that it will not be talked about or conversed in the way that it needs to be going forward. It'll just be kind of brushed over in the pursuit of progress. Which I think is an awful lot of what we talk about on an ongoing basis in the art or creative world.
Yeah, I think we've gotten so accustomed to just like this is the next thing. Kind of like with social media. Social media, everyone's using it, or most people use it, and it tracks me. Well, it's just part of it's just technology. It logs my keystrokes. It's just technology. It accesses my camera. It accesses my microphone. It reads my contacts, reads my text messages, my emails. It knows what I'm doing. It can watch me from my camera at any moment. Well, just the way things are. It's just kind of like we just go along with it. We just continually the bar keeps getting higher, and we keep saying, "Well, it's fine." I want to post TikToks, so I'll deal with it. That's not me, but people.
No, I know. I got teenagers, and it's the TikTok thing is kind of horrifying sometimes. It really is. But
have you read the terms of service for TikTok? It's fucking mind blowing. It's insane.
I'm sure. No, I haven't, but I can only imagine it. I'm sure it's not in my favor. I guarantee you that.
Yeah. Just like everything is in the service of big business, the server corporations or otherwise.
Another platform that's really bad with privacy that no one talks about is Discord.
Is it?
Yes.
Wow. Is that
yeah.
Is that how the guy got caught trading state secrets there? Military secrets.
I'm not sure if that's specifically why, but yeah, the Discord, it's very bad on privacy. The owner, the creator of Discord, is notoriously bad for privacy. When he launched Discord, and a Chinese company owns it, and all of your information, you can never delete your account. You can never really delete it, and all that information is stored on servers in China.
Oh boy.
Never goes away.
Yeah.
So
what I use Discord for, I will say, and this is where the guilt comes from. I was a member of lots of Discord servers until this week, and I just kind of left them all. Not because I dislike the creators or anything to do with it, but at a certain point, you're not engaging with any of them. Like, it's just not a thing. And just like I'm just getting rid of all of this noise from my life, if I want to say that. Maybe that's the reason my mood's picked up this past week. I've just kind of done that clearing of house and kind of went, get out of that. Because by and large, I've only ever used Discord for as voice comms for playing games. Mm-hmm. Like that's literally been an avenue just for to meet up with friends and kind of have a voice platform to talk about, not sharing information or anything. It's just literally just been here, pop in this room and talk to other people.
Yeah, I think when I tried to use the Discord, there's so many notifications it never left you alone. There's so many servers, and so it's hard to keep up. And I spent more time on Discord trying to find what I missed than I did like actually reading things.
Just impossible.
Oh wow!
Can't keep up.
Yeah, I because I'm on it for a couple of things. I use it mainly just to post my videos and email people that I don't have like a other type of contact with. That's it. A lot of the conversations that I see on there, I have no idea what they're talking about. Like I'm lost. I'm just like, okay, I don't even go there. I don't even look at them because I'm just like, okay. Every once in a while, I'll see something that pops up. And it's like, oh, and I'll say something, but most of the times I'm lost. I have no idea what people are talking about.
I think in Discord is hard too because of that, because it is like it reminds me of like late 90s, early 2000s chat rooms. That's basically, it's like an IRC.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's almost like if you don't take the time to catch up with everyone, then when there's already established groups, it's hard to fit in. You feel like an outsider. It's hard to, you feel like a third wheel because they have all these things going on and you feel like an outsider. So
it's one of those weird social conventions of it creates its own mini hierarchy depending on how much you engage with it, like, which is in its own right like a mental health absolute nightmare of the last order, insofar as you could kind of go, oh, I haven't been on here in a week or a month, and these people are all fabulous, but I have no idea what's going on at all, and that creates its own pressure. And, trying to cut down as much of that as I can.
Yeah. So this month, I also I was rewatching a few movies. We're watching the Alien franchise.
Seen that, yeah.
Nice.
Talking about it tomorrow.
How's your ranking on that, Steve?
How's my what?
Your ranking of the Aliens movies.
If I had to rank right now, on the spot, I'm going to be unpopular.
Okay.
I would say first is Alien. I think it's hard to beat it. Second, I'm going to might get some hate for this. Second is the Alien 3 assembly cut.
Assembly cut. What's the difference?
I think they released it in the 2000s. There was a cut that Fincher, was it Fincher? No, not Fincher. I'm sorry.
No. 3 was Fincher. 3 was Fincher.
Was it Fincher? Okay, yeah. He before all the studio interference, he recorded a lot of scenes that weren't polished, and there's a theatrical cut. I think there's a theatrical and assembly cut. So a lot of the scenes aren't finished. A lot of the audio is not cleaned up, but it's a lot different. And I really liked Ripley's end. I think that I really like the ending of the movie. I really like Ripley's arc, I should say. Don't want to spoil the 30-year-old movie for anyone. But so Alien 3 assembly cut, Aliens, Prometheus, maybe, Alien Covenant, and then Resurrection should be thrown away. It should be burned and never seen again by anyone ever.
But here's the thing: I 100% agree with your ranking of those films.
Oh, wow.
That's interesting. It is funny because Aliens as a movie, if you'd asked me in my 20s, it was my favorite by far.
Yeah, me too.
And then as the years have went on, I mean, I just think Alien is just one of the most incredible movies of all time. Especially the
I really like Alien.
Minutes of it. Oh, it's magnificent.
I really like the first one a lot.
Making of the Rinsler book of the making of Alien, and read it cover to cover, it just blows my mind. That book and that film of its genesis. And 3's underappreciated, but I do like Fincher. So.
Yeah. Although Aliens did have some of the most quotable lines.
Oh, for sure.
That growing up, you know.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. Like when I'm a younger viewer and kind of taking in entertainment, I was looking for something very, very different out of those films than I probably looked for as a more mature, kind of grumpy kind of person that I am now. I kind of don't need to have the entertainment. I look at the young character and kind of go, that was unnecessary. It's been used for effect or for a reason or for markets and all of that kind of marketing reasons. It takes away from what the central character of Ripley in a lot of ways, and is sort of redeemed in 3. You know, as you say, her ending and her closing of her story arc, I think, is very powerful.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, I shouldn't say brilliant. I think it's fitting.
Fitting, yeah.
But I'm really looking forward to talking about her arc as a character and where she starts from Alien and where she ends up in the journey that she takes. Mm-hmm. And when I hear modern, like Jennifer, I forget her name, her mind slips my mind from Hunger Games.
Lawrence.
When she Lawrence, and I think she's a great actress. I think she's wonderful. But when she says things like, "Oh, I'm the first action movie star," like no one's ever cast a woman in this like an act. It's like, what a dumb thing to say. Like there's Sigourney Weaver was like a complete badass back in like 1979. Yeah, she's great. But yeah, I think in Covenant, not to get too sidetracked, but I think Covenant, when I went in and I removed my expectations and just watched it, it was a lot better. And I think there's some problems with Prometheus, but I think it gets a little bit too much grief. I think it's better than what people give it credit for.
I've probably said this before, but I watched Prometheus without watching any trailers.
Yeah.
And I did not know it was an alien movie at all until about the last 20 minutes of the movie. And I was like,
Yeah.
what? And as it dawned on me, I was like, this is an alien movie. I was like, and everybody's like, well, obviously it was an alien movie. It was in all the promotion. I was like, it was just called Prometheus. That's all that I seen. And Michael Fassbender was the thing that was used to market it quite a lot, you know, and I had no idea, but it made that all the more powerful, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some interesting ideas with that. But that's another franchise. Do I really want to know? Do I really want it to end? Do I really want answers? I don't know.
Well, all the best stuff in Alien is the unexplainable. You know, the stuff in here, even in Alien, when they arrive with all the eggs on the homeland just sitting there, and the kind of the monolith of the thing looking up at the stars, like the possibilities that are way more interesting than knowing what that is. Like that stuff as an imagery just living in your head. It's like, anything can happen now. This is fantastic.
Yeah, so you guys are free to join us in the morning, or my morning. Chris, you're probably your afternoon.
Definitely, I think it's 3 in the afternoon. I think
Yeah,
I
for
have
film
to do
chewing.
a rewatch,
Oh,
but
yeah.
we'll see how it
I
goes.
can't, but I barely remember anything from those movies. I'd have to rewatch them if I was going to talk about them at all. It's been so long.
Alien's the one that I watch again and again. It's
Yeah.
of them all I watch. In fact, a lot of times I just watch the first 20 minutes. First 20 minutes I just think is just so brilliant. It's Ridley Scott. Second movie,
So good.
are you kidding me? Yeah, that's just insane.
I also rewatched The Crow. That was interesting.
Yeah.
And I did see Oppenheimer. And it's a 3-hour movie that doesn't feel like 3 hours.
Oh, that's good.
I thought it was pretty good. I learned a lot. I didn't know a lot of and who knows how historically accurate it is, so you never know. But then we did watch, and the kids were like, we want to see more movies like this. And I thought, well, let's watch JFK from 91. I love Oliver Stone.
Yeah, that's a great movie.
That's another interesting movie. I don't know that hits the mark with all the theories. I have my own ideas behind it, but again about the assassination. But I think it's still another movie that was 3 hours long. It didn't feel like 3 hours.
I watched the Channel 4 documentary. I think it's been pretty conclusively cleared what did happen that day.
Oh, really?
Yeah. What happened? The guy in the front seat shot him.
Really?
Yeah, because the way his head snapbacks and everything, it was really, really compelling. Like from a physical argument, it had to be him. It could only have been him. While there may have been shots fired or otherwise, the only person that actually could have killed him in that way, in trying to pull his gun out of his pocket, they think he killed him accidentally.
That's a new one. Wow.
But it was incredibly convincing because they did the whole kind of wireframe and all of that kind of stuff, and it was like, right, okay, well, I can't believe anything else now because this is this is pretty incredible.
Yeah, I was a criminal justice major, so we did a lot of white collar crime, and they went over all the Giancana mafia ties to his dad, and so there's a lot of.
I
maybe
have
I'm
no doubt that was the intention. That I think in much the same way as a lot of people have been killed through life because of their role in society and the kind of power that they were wielding. But it is quite possible that was unintentionally. the murderer, even though like it was just pure luck that he wasn't killed beforehand or otherwise.
Yeah, so many great conspiracies,
Oh, it's
so many great theories, and yeah,
Well, it's a great movie. Like the JFK
Yeah.
movie by Oliver Stone is brilliant. As is 13 Days. I think that's underappreciated as well. Which is
13
about
what?
13 Days with the about the Cuban Missile Crisis. Also with Kevin Costner. I always group those two together in my head.
I think I've seen that. I love Oliver Stone. He's such a mind-bending style.
Any Given Sunday's a great. It's probably the best American football movie that there is.
Yeah, it's funny you hear some football players say that's ridiculous. It's nothing like that, and someone will say that's exactly what it's like.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you wonder. But any personal goals accomplished this month? You guys want to share?
I was going to talk about a couple of movies that I watched since you've done,
Yeah,
done
go
the
for it.
movies. I watched Cool Hand Luke. If anybody's seen Cool Hand Luke.
Oh,
recently.
nice.
I hadn't
What's that?
seen that in Cool Hand Luke with Paul Newman.
Oh, okay. Yep.
I hadn't seen it in about 20 years, and kind of what I had remembered it was about was not what that film's about at all. Again, that idea of being entertained by a movie and thinking it's just this kind of guy that sits in the edge of society, he's kind of just doesn't want to conform. That's not what that movie's about. It's about the penal system in America. It's about how they punish actual crime. It is about power dynamics within certain systems of society. That film has rocketed into my top 20 movies of all time, for sure. Like, just totally blew my mind about how great it was and how great Paul Newman is in it and all the rest of it. And the other one I watched that I thought it'd be interesting to talk about is a Japanese film called The Bullet Train.
Oh, how was that?
Not the Brad Pitt one.
Not the
This
Brad
is
Pitt one, yeah.
basically- This is basically Speed. Before Speed was made, this is a 70s Japanese movie, and it's basically the idea that on the bullet train in Japan, they planted a bomb on a train. Basically says it couldn't go under a certain speed, and if it did, it'd blow up.
Oh,
But there were a lot of passengers on board, etc. And it's nearly 2.5, 3 hours long of a movie. Kind of flies by, but I think it's an interesting thing to say. Okay, they say it didn't influence Speed, but I mean, it's basically Speed without Dennis Hopper.
sounds like Speed.
Yeah, and TV series. I just finished The Bear yesterday. Has anybody seen The Bear?
Yeah, I have.
I've heard it's really good.
It's really good.
It's fabulous.
Did you, especially that one episode with the family at Christmas
Fishes. It was Thanksgiving
with
but
Jamie
yes.
with Jamie Lee Curtis and
Yes.
What's his name from Breaking Bad?
Bob Odenkirk is in
Cranston?
it. He is. Bob Odenkirk's in it. He's
Oh,
his
Odenkirk.
third partner.
Yeah, Odenkirk. Yeah, that single episode was so brilliant, so brilliantly done. It was amazing, and it was extra long too.
Yeah.
And it was it reminded me of something. I couldn't remember what it was, but it was such a great what do you call that? A microcosm of the whole series, compacted into that one episode, and the whole family dynamic, and it was just beautifully done. That episode.
Sort of why everybody is the way that they are. Explained
Yeah,
in
it
one
explains
episode,
so much about all their personalities and all the whole stories and situations and everything. And that one episode really just summed up the whole series so well. It was great. It was so well done.
It's the
It's
episode-
got to be
I think it's the
nominated.
episode-
It has to be.
Episode after that, actually, even like better. I think it's Forks, which is Richie going into work as the guy for another restaurant in training.
Yeah, that was cool. Yep. Very
I
good.
mean,
Yep.
That show does a couple of singular episodes amazing. There's one in the first
Yeah.
series as well, which is just like only about 15-20 minutes long, and it's just so manic and so over the top that when the credits roll at the end of it, you're like, I haven't breathed for 15 minutes. Like,
Yeah.
this is just unbelievable. It's like a pure
That one-
stress bomb. Yeah,
It was so good.
Wow.
I thought season 2 was a lot better actually than season 1.
I agree.
Season 1 I thought took a little bit to get going, but and it took a little while to get used to the characters, but season 2 was brilliant.
I love in that show how they deal with character arcs, right? So a lot of shows come to a climax and everybody's happy at the end, or everybody's sad at the end. And the Bears seems to do this. Everybody's up and down. They're all at different stages at different times. So even by the time you get to the end of the series, some people are on and up. Some people have had the best day of their lives. Some people have had their worst day of their lives, and kind of everybody's in a flux. So you as a viewer just kind of don't know how to feel about it. You know, it's this kind of sense of unease about it, and going, oh, but I want to see more. I want to see more of these people. I sort of like all of them. And like, who your favorite person is changes from episode to episode.
Sure. Oh yeah. No, it was really well done. That second season was just great.
It's fantastic. And I'm watching Strange New Worlds Star Trek series, which I'll just say is just, I think it's great Trek. If you like Star Trek, I think it's really fabulous Trek. But the other thing I started watching was Until Murder at the End of the World, which is on Disney Plus for me at the moment. Star Plus. And
Oh yeah, I've seen the trailer for that. Yeah. Is it any good?
It's fabulous. So it's
good.
4
Really?
episodes in at the moment. It is by the creators of the OC, if you ever seen the OC, which is just weird and wacky and wonderful. It's still on Netflix if you want. But it's basically about people getting invited to a retreat by a very rich guy, and somebody's killed there. And they're cut off, isolated from the rest of the world. And it's about, you know, kind of who killed them so far, but there's also all this other shit going on at the side. And you're like, okay. And everybody's a hacker in there, and the whole thing's just, it's so multi-layered and so interesting, and so, like, the cast they have is brilliant, and Clive Owen's in it, Emma Corrin's in it, Garth Dickinson from Triangle of Sadness is in it, and the whole thing's just, it just feels very, very well put together. But yeah, if you like a murder mystery especially, and you like things that are a bit wacky and weird, Murder at the End of the World is great.
I still have to watch Happy Valley.
So good. Sweet Jesus. It's another stress bomb. It's another absolute. Sometimes you just get to the end of the episode and go, my heart, it's honestly beating too fast. Like, this is just ridiculous. I couldn't watch another episode of that. And thankfully, when that happens, they usually do an episode which is a little bit calmer or otherwise. But
Happy Valley, is it, what platform is that on?
So it was a BBC show, and it's been made over like a 15-year period. The last series they only made because they wanted some of the characters from the earlier series to get older, to kind of tell their story, all that kind of stuff. It's a story of a valley in Wales, or a little village in a valley in Wales, which is just got a drug problem. So they call it Happy Valley because everybody's high, essentially, that's in the town.
Oh, okay.
And it's about a police officer that is trying to work in that environment, but there's some trauma happened to her and her family, and some ongoing things that happen in her family. And some of those episodes in that are just incredible. Some people say it's a bit too heightened, but I think each series is only 6 episodes. Classic British TV sense of storytelling. Like, no fluff on it, just kind of tell the story you want to tell, get out. All 3 series are brilliant. Finished this year. It was fab.
Cool.
Damn it.
But goals for this year, or for goals for next month?
Goals for this month or this year? Jeez, I don't know. Well, next week? Yeah, 8 days from now is my 1-year anniversary on YouTube.
Ah,
So
Nice.
I don't know if I should do something or not. I would just say,
Of course you should. You
how
survived.
has your year on YouTube been, Jarrod?
well, it got me in touch with you guys, so
So not that good.
Aw.
so that's
So what about the high points then?
So what good happened?
yeah. No, the connections have been wonderful, really wonderful. That was and it was unexpected. I didn't start it to get connections with people. I thought I was just going to be making videos and people would watch them and maybe get a few comments on below, and that was it, you know. And but then it just when you started when it started interacting with people on their videos and my videos, and then it kind of snowballed into something more. And you know, I'm always very thankful to Vasha for inviting me on the Page Two forums, because then that was even better, you know, than the YouTube stuff, which I still, you know, I still love, but
Yeah.
it it's really been cool. And so it's been a, you know, mostly positive experience.
Apart from the trolls.
Apart from my recent two trolls, which
When you have trolls, you've made it.
yeah,
You made
which I'm still on the fence on whether they're trolls or not. But it's it's funny because I haven't deleted them yet, you know, because I'm still like, you know, people are entitled to their opinions,
Their
you
opinion.
know,
Yeah, I don't think. I
and
don't think they are maybe a bit forceful in how they're expressing how you're wrong. You know, their tone
yeah,
is maybe not what you want, but
it's like I don't have a problem with somebody telling me I'm wrong. That okay, I'm wrong, you know, but uh,
Mm.
but if they do get insulting, that's you know, that's when I'll take issue, you know. But I don't know, they're pretty tame, I guess, so far. But no, it's been quite the experience because I didn't know what I was getting into. I really didn't. I just turned the camera on and started talking,
yeah.
and so I've learned a lot of stuff along the way, and it's been pretty cool. Yeah.
YouTube's an interesting experience. I think very few people would say it's exactly what they thought it was going to be going in. I think what you get out of it is very extremely different, as you say.
Yeah.
Things that I kind of thought I would need to have a large viewership before anybody would actually properly engage with me, if that makes sense. I sort of thought you would
Yeah.
have to get the about 2,000 subscribers before anybody would actually continually, be people that you recognize or something like that, and that is definitely not the case. Or even that you could contribute to somebody else's community and be the same. You know what I mean? That you
Yeah.
could do. You know.
Yeah.
Think about the number of really good friends that I've made from the platform.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the key right there. And I you know, it's funny because I was like about 4 or 5 months in, and I was like, you know, I'm sitting at like, I don't know, 60 subscribers and whatever, and I'm just like, yeah, okay, whatever. I'm just having fun doing this. And then I was like looking at other people who just started their channel and they're already up to like
Yeah.
400, 500 subscribers, and I'm like, what's going on there? And then I realized, you know, it's all about the how you put it towards the algorithm and stuff like that. And I'm like, and I realized, you know, well, I'm not really interested in that. You know, I'm not really interested in trying to shoot for the moon and what have you. I just wanna talk about these books that are awesome, and you know, discuss them somewhat. You know.
I think that's one of the things because I have a number of friends who live by the algorithm. They're tortured by the algorithm.
Yeah.
They subscribe to TubeBuddy and they look for the keywords that they should be, and they make the content based on the keywords and all that. And they are tortured on a daily basis by what content they should be making, right?
Right.
And the thing I would say to them is, and have said to them, is like, you're literally going to get out of it what you put into it. Then you're going to get people engaging with your content who are not the people that you want to even have the conversations with. Whereas, even if you have a small channel and you only have a number of subscribers, literally if you're making the content you want to make, those people that are coming to see you want to engage with that content, which is exactly the kind of viewer that you want.
Yeah.
So whether it's 60 people, 100 people, 1,000 people, whatever that number is, they are there to see your review, this really obscure book that nobody else is talking about, or that nobody else is talking about. And at a certain point, I often say, like, I have 400 and something subscribers. I don't know how anybody comes with any more subscribers. Like, it's just ridiculous. How could you respond to the comments? I look at friends of mine and go, they post a video, and 3 hours later, they have 60 comments, and I'm like, I think I would throw up. I think I would throw up everywhere. If I had 60 comments, I think I would just delete my channel. I think I'd be out of there. Like, just couldn't do it.
I'll answer them for you, Chris.
Oh,
It's all right.
Yeah. If we ever get to that point, I'll set you on them and say, Jarrod, you can say it you like. Try and get rid of them.
Your subscriber count might go way down after that, but
Just get rid of them. Get rid of them. It's too much work.
You know, it's funny because if you like you spend all this time making videos, and like Chris said, you have certain people interact. There's a formula that you can use to have a really successful you can have a channel that gains a lot of subscribers fast if you really wanted to. There's a certain path you can take. Especially in literature, you can have certain fantasy series and you'll skyrocket. And if you're into that, go for it. Like, do it.
If that's what you wanted of the platform.
yeah, absolutely. If
Yeah.
that's what you want to do, yeah.
Yeah. So, because I've seen channels that start off with certain fantasy franchises and focus on certain things, and they have 4,000 subscribers in 2 months, and more power to them. But I think Jane from Lady Jane Books had a video a while back and talked about a successful channel is different to everyone, because what is a successful channel isn't necessarily the amount of subs you have. It's the content that you're putting into it. So a successful channel to us may be, I want quality interaction. I want genuine interaction. And if I have 400 subscribers and I get good interaction, then I'm happy with that.
Yeah, right.
But some people want thousands of subscribers for some reason, because, great. But then you have, so everyone has a different bar of what they deem successful. So I think it's important to not get wrapped up in that and think, well, I have 100 subscribers, but I'm enjoying what I make, but my channel is a failure. No, it's not. Like, if you enjoy it, then you're not a failure. Like, you're doing a good job. Do what you want to do. Because there's a video by Daniel Green. I don't even watch Daniel Green, but he came up on my recommended. I don't think I've ever seen a video of his, but he made a video recently talking about how he watched the analytics page every day, and he wanted to see that growth every single day, and he was chasing the algorithm. He was chasing the next big thing, choosing his content because he wanted to see that green. He wanted to see the channel growth. He wanted to see those numbers go up. And he was obsessed with pleasing the algorithm. And now he's like, you know what? I like book reviews and I like talking to people, and that's what I'm going to do. It's like that, because I'm just not enjoying myself, and I think that's great. Like, do what makes you happy, and if he enjoys doing it, do it. Like, of course, it's easy for him, right? Because like hundreds of thousands or whatever. But really, none of us are here. None of us are doing this to make any money, because there's no money to be made. Really, I mean,
no, there's no money.
You can, but not really.
Yeah.
For a few.
Yeah. And there is a certain level of dopamine that gets created when you see that green numbers, so it's I can see easily how people can get trapped in that and want to see that. It's like it's pleasing to the senses to see that, on a certain level, and so it's a matter of realizing that that's not the be all and end all of why we're here. I mean, if I really, really wanted to grow a YouTube channel, I probably wouldn't be here talking to you guys right now. And
I could have told you that, Jarrod.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jarrod.
Yeah, no offense, but
you're right. Yeah.
I wouldn't be wasting my time.
But you guys too, if you really, really wanted to grow it, you wouldn't be here, right? But
like, I can't tell you, like, we did the Night Fever discussion on, what was it, Wednesday or something? I came off of that discussion on such a high.
That was great.
High, like even if I checked my analytics and I'd gained 50 subscribers that day, it wouldn't have been as much as the high as I came off that day of that conversation. And it was like,
Friday conversation we just had with AP and Janie. That was spectacular. That was and it was 3 hours, and it was like boop, like done. It went by so fast, and it was
Flew
great.
by.
Really great conversations.
And it's a similar sort of thing. Like when if you'd have said to me, like we did Friday conversations with Steve. Steve's been very lucky to invite me on a lot of times, and you think about the people you're going to speak to, and sometimes you go, "Oh, I'm a bit nervous.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
so in awe of all of this."
Oh yeah.
And sometimes I hate those ones because the person that came up the other isn't what I thought of them, or otherwise it didn't gel, or otherwise. And then other people are like, "I have no idea who this person is," or some of my favorites. You know what I mean? And you kind of come
Yeah.
off and go, like, I love that. That was so honest and kind of whatever else. So your perceptions of what all of those things are going to be is often completely warped. You know, and it kind of it's about having the interesting conversations and things
Yeah.
that engage you.
Oh,
And you go, yeah.
I'm getting better, but I get nervous every time I go on. Really, I do. I'm like, oh, geez, I had this discussion today, and I get nervous. You know, once I get into it, I'm fine. But I always get those what are they pre-stage jitters or whatever. Um, but
Was nervous twice.
that's it.
Nervous
What were you
twice.
nervous about?
First time we did the conversation with Johnny, and I think I remember that very well. Nobody spoke. Everybody
Yeah.
was just like, "Oh
Yeah.
my god!"
Yeah, that was
this is
yeah.
insane.
This
Um,
it's like
that was
bow
ridiculous.
before the master.
Yeah. This is especially because I sort of like vitalized our work beforehand, you know, even with outside of the Borderline shadows. And the other one was when Jim Wilborn contacted me to say, "Well, can I do my book launch on your channel?" And I was like, "No." That was my initial speak. Was like, "No, don't do it in mine. Like, this is the worst career decision you've ever made. Like, this is not this is not a good move, or otherwise." And no, he was insistent because there was a couple of other people he could have done it with. And I was like, "If you want that," I was unbelievably honoured at the time. But it was like that pressure of like, I said, "I better do this right. You know, I better do as good a job as I can and all that kind of stuff." And I was like, that's nervous. That's pressure. That isn't just. This is somebody's like written this book for hours and hours and hours and hours and end. Like
Yeah,
that's outside
that's
pressure. That's not.
that's like the first time I had AP on my channel talking about D&D. Oh, I was a nervous wreck that day. I really was.
He's brilliant, isn't he? There's so many brilliant
Oh yeah,
people.
he is
just
brilliant.
like blows your mind.
But that is something I say in real life. I say it to my friends quite a lot. But the amount of brilliant people that you meet on a day-to-day basis in your life is so few that it's almost never worth worrying about, right? But then you take that into like an online phase, and actually that quotient can go way up very quickly. You know, depending on the circles and the people you hold in, you can meet brilliant people on a regular basis, and you just go, "Wow." Like we did Michael Sullivan, Adrian Tchaikovsky, and R.J. Barker within three days, one after the other, and I just remember going,
Yeah.
"Oh my god!" Like brilliant! Like that, like unbelievably, like it was almost overload of like, "I need to bring my A game today. I need to get a good night's sleep." You know, I didn't even have a
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah, it was wild.
Yeah, but fun.
It was a good stretch. Yeah. And really, even, I don't want to say lesser known, I don't want to be disrespectful, even others who aren't as recognizable or haven't had, or just starting out, haven't had the success yet. Some of those are the most interesting people to talk to, you know? So it's so many great discussions, though.
Yeah,
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Like, I remember the first time, like, Carl's very much part of the community. First stream that Carl did, I was like, amazing. Amazingly interesting, thoughtful, and, you know, intelligent person to have a conversation with, just on a Friday night, whatever. Like, it's brilliant.
Yeah. He took the reins for the character episode, and he actually kept us in line. I was like, "Wow, you're pretty good," because we didn't veer off a whole lot. He kept us on topic.
So, big celebration coming then, Jarrod. That's the.
we'll see. I don't know. I don't have any ideas, so I'm not sure. Not sure what I'm gonna do.
You should do something fun.
But,
Big accomplishment. A lot of people fall off pretty quick.
Oh, to make a year like.
Do they?
Oh,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think the average channel, I would guess, for BookTube lasts 3 to 6 months.
Yeah, I would
Maybe.
say so.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah, I'm not
Because the
sure.
reality, what people think it is, and what the reality of it is, like, I don't want to say churning out content, but it's like regularly putting out content means you set up and you know, I think a lot of people think what I have to say is so interesting that I'll be at 1,000 subscribers within 2 weeks. Like
Yeah.
it'll be amazing, and that's just not how it works, and it's not the way it should work either. You know, there's a lot of challenges.
That's not the way life works.
Yeah, it's not the way life works. That's exactly right. But like having at least a couple of people who will engage with you on a regular basis, I think is just kind of amazing in a lot of ways. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, let us know, Jared, where we can help you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll just do I don't know. I've never done a live stream.
It's not hard.
Oh, I
It's
know.
really
Yeah,
not.
I know it's not hard, but it's just not. It wasn't ever anything I aspired to do, you know. But
No. I know
Who
some
knows,
quite
yeah.
big YouTubers that just are terrified by live streams. They've done live streams with me and not spoken because they're like so freaked out by the fact that they can't edit it and record. You know, put it together at the end. It's like what? I just can't know.
yeah, I've been on a couple, and I don't have a problem with them, you know. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that's something
Yeah, that
I
you
would,
wouldn't do. Yeah.
that I want to do.
Just because everybody else does it. So
Yeah.
like it's that Q&A session or whatever. That can be quite a good one. Send me in questions or. I don't know,
You can even have
videos
people send them
and
in and just
Yeah.
answer
stuff. Yeah.
and just record and
Oh, right, yeah,
post it.
right, yeah.
You could even do it while eating a filet mignon roast in between each question. Do you know, like
That
I
sounds
think
so
that's
good. I've been
good
thinking about
content.
it.
Like,
Saturday night fillet. Here we go.
I don't mean to put ideas or requests even, but I think that's a good one.
I'll drink to that.
Ale, you know?
That does sound pretty good.
Yeah, it does.
Oh, yeah, so that's
Do we already go over? Yeah.
that's
Go ahead, Jordan. Sorry.
something I got to think about for goals for December, I guess. You know, and then after that, it's just making it through the holiday without
Oh, yeah.
strangling children, and then I'm off the week after Christmas from work, so I'm hoping I'll have a lot of time to read and maybe schedule my next book thing, which I got to think about the next guests. So
Nice.
I have a couple ideas, but we'll see. And then just have more fun reading stuff, you know? That's I might check out a few of those movies Chris has been recommended.
Oh,
We'll
good
see.
God. See, but there's a classic example. Like I recommend the most random, like obscure kind of stuff that is for the niche of the niche of the niche of the niche. But I have a couple of people that kind of go, "That's cool."
I do need to think of new stuff for the blog. I kind of wrapped up my my critical analysis deep dive this week, and so I need to think of new topics. So that's a goal, I guess. Yeah.
Nice.
Writing as a creative endeavor is tough as well. Man.
Oh, it's
Think
hard
of-
as hell.
of Topics, yeah,
I-
yeah. It's so.
Yeah, that's why I didn't do it for a long time, because it was for me, it was very taxing. Some people get a kick out of it. That actually it fuels them and makes them want to do more writing. The more they do, the more they want to do, or something like that. But
Yeah.
for me, it's very taxing, and I'm at my limit just writing a blog and writing the little short stories we're doing for the Writers Battleground there on Page Doing. I'm at my limit. Like that's it. That I can't do any more than that, because it's, I don't know. For me, it's always been that kind of really intense, taxing exercise that and it's like I enjoy it when I'm finished because it's like, oh, I'm done, and I'm glad I did it. But but it takes a lot out of me
Yeah.
when I do it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. These people who can finish a novel, they're incredible.
Yeah.
I can't
It's unbelievable.
fathom finishing a novel. I think that would break me.
I I see like whether it's moonwriting or even when I'm teaching and somebody submits something, I'm fascinated over every word they use. Like, and I actually there was one of the prompts one month that I thought, right, let's see if we can do the writer's battle for this, and I must have sat for 2 hours and got about 25 words because I could not stop. I couldn't get in the idea of I'm just going to throw stuff down here without and then edit it later. I just couldn't. I just couldn't do it in a creative sense. Like it just wasn't. It's just not a part of the body or the part of the brain that I have at all. If somebody else gives me something, I think I'd do a pretty good job of editing it for them. I think I can go and make it pithy, snappy, whatever, clean it up in a lot of ways, but it's not coming out of me the other way. It's not coming out of me creatively. Without some sort of high concept or idea beforehand, like just nuts.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of my problem is I edit as I go. I'm not one of those people who can just spit stuff out and then go back later and edit. I have to, everything's got to be right as I'm going. If it's not, it stalls me. And
Well,
I
that was
agonize
me.
over it.
I get 25 words in because I'm like, I can't think of the right word here, and the right word's not coming to me, and I can't move on until I get the right word for this one little bit that I'm going. And there is a right word. That's the worst part when you convince yourself that there is a right word and it's just not coming to you. You're like, oh God, what an idiot! Elbow my brain.
Yeah,
My brain's my enemy.
I mean, and that's
It
why
is.
the epic stuff that Janie Wertz is doing and Erickson, it just blows me away. I can't fathom planning that and then following through. It just it boggles my mind. It amazes me every time I think about it. Every time I look at the books on the shelf, I'm just amazed. It really am.
How'd your brain get there? And Johnny said, like, it goes through so many iterations of change and all the rest that you wouldn't like see the first one, but also, like, what happens at the end. I can't see that journey then. No matter where you started, and it ends up here. Like, I don't know if that's a master crafts person or whatever way you want to put it in,
Yeah.
but at the same stage, I don't see the steps. It's not there. I don't know.
What about you, Chris? What goals do you have for December?
For December, I am going to read a non-planned read.
Yeah.
I feel like
You monster.
I'm at that place. Yeah. I know I'm planning to read. I actually sat, but I had the idea. I think I'm going to read again tomorrow. I've read tonight. I'm going to read again tomorrow. I'm like, my biggest problem is now is the choice process that you get too many books and you want to read. But I'll just pick one and go for it. I'll probably have a short list of 2, and I think I'll get that done probably next week. That'll be my plan to finish a book in a week. 'Cause that's what
You know,
it needs to be.
that was the first review I ever did in my channel. Was a book I just randomly picked up at the library.
Yeah.
It was Alan Moore's Illuminations.
Ah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Interesting.
If you guys haven't read that, it's a fascinating read.
Alamers.
And I know you're Alan Moore fans because I know you're Swamp Thing fans, and Watchmen and what have you. But that was a book of short stories, Illuminations, and it was really, really outstanding.
do you have the Swamp Thing books yet, Chris?
I bought the first volume on Kindle because they weren't available. Actually, I don't think they were available physically when I went to look for them. So I had that. But Alan Moore's such a brilliant mind. Again, another person I look at the stories and go, like, how does your brain generate that out of it? Like, it's just, again, so out of my sphere of reference. Like, how somebody can be that brilliant, but you know.
Even just I used to read the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen comics as they came out, and he would have these short stories in the back. Those things were the weirdest, wackiest stuff I've ever read, and he was man. He has a strange mind, Alan Moore. He comes up with some really strange stuff, and it was fascinating, though.
But brilliant, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm
I
also.
I did.
Sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say because I'm going to move on to something else. You go for that.
Oh no, I was going to say I did reach out to Alan Moore's agent, and he politely declined. So,
Ah.
but
You got a
he was cool about
response, which was
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a response, which
That's-
is I'm good. So
The other thing I was going to say, I'm about to embark. I think I finally got the motivation. I'm going to lose 3 stone in 4 months.
nice.
I
What
did 2
was that?
stone in 3 months before. I'm going to use 3. I'm going to lose 3 stone in 4 months.
You roll my, jeez.
I did 2 stone in 3 months about 3 years ago. So I know exactly how to do it, and it is that switch in your brain. I just need to switch on and say this is what I'm doing, and then my brain's at that stage.
Well, do it for me as well.
Yeah, okay, well. It is not that it is actually not that difficult, but it is about getting your brain in the stage where you want to do it, because it is a sacrifice thing of just saying this is just what you do, and there's no deviation from this plan. It's kind of what we were talking about earlier on, Steve, in terms of as soon as you slide off that plan, it all goes to shit. But
Yeah.
I know how to do it.
I think calling it a diet or calling it something like giving it, and you just say this is what I do and this is what I don't do, and just that's what it is.
It's a complete
That's
lifestyle
kinda
change
like-
for me. It is like some
yeah,
people call
lifestyle.
it calorie crunching, but for me, it's not really calorie crunching. It's about a hand in hand of having a regular pattern of behavior, which is going out every day and trying to do, whether walk or run. It actually doesn't matter. 5K of some sort. You know what would be the only difference to me about walking or run is that it'll take 25 minutes compared to 45 minutes compared to that. It's a time thing at that stage, and then it's about cutting sugar out of my diet. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, huge difference. Cutting sugar out.
Yeah, because I did it doing cutting calories, but my diet was essentially all sugar at that stage, and nothing was happening. I was like, what's doing? And as soon as I went to eat differently but cut the sugar out, bang! Like instantly, your body just goes, okay, this is what you're at. Okay, we're doing. And actually, the biggest problem I found, I don't know if you found this, Steve, going back, people's reactions to me losing a lot of weight. They were deeply uncomfortable with it, especially in a quick period of time. I had one good friend of mine, Sean, come up to me at work and go, I'm going to ask you one question. Are you okay? You're losing weight because you decided to? I went, yeah. He says, okay, good man. That's it. Nothing insidious or otherwise. That's good. No, you keep on doing that. I just at a stage where I'm at that heavier than I would like to be stage, and never been an athlete or anything, but that kind of thing where I need to buy more clothes, and I think that's really what it comes down to. Is it just I don't want to buy more clothes. I don't like clothes shopping. I like book shopping.
Sucks.
And when people say to me, "What will I get you for Christmas?" I think underwear and socks are things I never ever want to buy for myself. If you buy me underwear or socks, I'll be the happiest person you'll ever meet. Honestly, save me.
Well, next month if you can make it, let us know. Give us your updates.
Yeah, we'll do. I'm planning to start actually when I get off work, which is about the 19th, and I'll start
okay.
then. That's my plan. It was when I did start a few years ago. I was like, I'm gonna do it for my New Year's resolution, and I remember it was the 29th of December, and I went, no, I'm in the headspace now. I'm going out the house, and I literally started on the 29th of December, and 3 months went mad. I spent 2 weeks making an ass of it and not doing it right while I figured it out, and then I worked right to it, and I'll do the same thing. I'll just do the same thing, and I'll not the things that caused me to slip off it before. Once I got to that weight, I know what to avoid. It's a bit like what you were saying there. I'm doing so well. I could have a donut.
Yeah,
I could have a
It's a trap.
packet of crisps.
yeah. It's yeah. It just gets worse and worse and worse.
It does, yeah. So, So
say no.
those are my plans for the next month or so, or monthish.
Nice. Come to think of it, we have to wrap up the year next month when we do the monthly.
Oh, jeez.
That'll be a long one.
A year in page June. Eh?
Wow.
You can share how much money you've made on the entire podcast, Steve. I mean, what you spent your riches on, and
I think last I looked, it's like $4 or something. It's like
I mean, Jesus, that is a hell of an amount of money. That like, if you were to put the graph of percentage of people that made money from doing podcasting in the history of podcasting, like you're in the top 0.005%, even with $4. So yeah, you can look at it that way.
yeah, I'm basically like a entrepreneur in the podcast space.
You're going to be invited on like a TED talk.
I'll be happy to go. Yeah, they'll learn absolutely nothing from me, but it'll be fun.
You ran away from such movies as.
Like, what's your secret? I just hit record and hope it goes okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Isn't that life though? Like you just hope for the best.
Yeah.
Oh dear, I'm gonna do this thing. I think it'll be okay, but if it's not, oh well. It's what I did. What I did on Thursday.
We'll see what happens.
Oh, man.
Well, awesome. Yeah. So also I hope to. In November I had 100 miles in one day, so I hope to do that again in December. That's another.
So you're gonna try and do that once a month then? Is that the...
Once a month is my goal. Yeah.
I think that's good. Yeah. Tell me this, Steve. See, in those 100-mile bike rides, because I have a brother-in-law that does something similar. How's your next day, or even later that day?
Wasn't too bad the next day. I think the most thing was my shoulders from the bending.
The posture. Yeah.
That was the worst part of it. Yeah, just the having to sit in a certain position for too long. I think it was like 8 hours. I think we rode for, and then we took breaks and ate and hung out. So we're sure to break it up.
Okay, cool.
So it wasn't too bad.
That'll be great.
We'll see. We'll see. It was fun though.
Yeah, and then we'll have to do our goals for 2024 next month. That'll be the
scary. Yeah, we'll have to plan that out. That'll be a long one.
Jeez.
Good one.
I have trouble thinking that far ahead.
Yeah.
I'm surprised there isn't a forum thread that's 2025 reading plans. The way some people plan their reads.
Yeah, I've seen those kind of like some people like really just like have a whole
like I sort of have internally what I plan to do for the first 6 months of 2024 if all things being well. Like I definitely have that, but I know some people do have that's a 2025 thing.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I know I'm gonna continue on in the series that I'm reading, but other than that, it's all up in the air.
Well, yours is quite clear because you have general goals of like one self-pub a month and stuff, Jarrod.
Yeah, right. That's pretty set. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it can be any self-pub, so it's
it gives you some flexibility, but just kind of like a guideline to go by, which is cool. I appreciate that for sure.
So cool. Thanks for coming by, guys, both of you. And Jarrod, thanks for making time. I know you had a busy evening.
Popping in and out, yeah.
Yeah.
It's probably about time to eat again, you know.
It is, yeah. I'm hungry again. After listening to the sirloin
Filet
was
mignon.
Filet mignon.
Yes.
Wow.
Creme de la creme.
So, Chris, where can people find you?
People could find me on my YouTube channel if they want to hear me talk about movies, possibly at the moment. I am thinking about splitting the channel off. I don't know. I sort of swore I wouldn't do it, but for the moment, it's all on the one channel.
Whoa.
Find me just a name.
That's a goal we didn't hear about.
Yeah. Well, it's not. That's not so much a goal. That's kind of just something I'm weighing up. Just kind of maybe take some of the pressure off in terms of what content you make. Even though I sort of don't care, at a certain point you're like, should I just do it just for an easy life? We'll see.
Interesting.
More work.
And Jarrod, where can people find you and troll you?
You can troll me at the Fantasy Thinker YouTube channel. I can't promise I'll respond to trolling, but you can find all my content there, and you can also read my blog on pagechewing.com, The Creative Crossroads.
And you can find us on pagestream.com on the forums. If you're not there, register for an account. And might take me a little bit because I have to approve all the new users, but come by and talk to us and join us for one of these fun discussions. So hope everyone's having a great December, and we will see everyone next month for this for the wrap up of December, and then 2024 goals. That'll be a fun one. That'll be a long one, but it'll be fun. So we'll talk to everyone then. Thanks, everybody.